Ready for another book? Good. This one is Yertle the Turtle. Oh yeah, ready for another book? Yeah. Yertle the Turtle. On the faraway island of Salamasond, Yertle the Turtle was king of the pond. A nice little pond, it was clean, it was neat, the water was warm and there was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need, and they were all happy, quite happy indeed. They were, until Yertle, the king of them all, decided the kingdom he ruled was too small. "I'm ruler," said Yertle, "of all that I see, but I don't see enough, that's the trouble with me. And this stone for a throne I look down on my pond, but I can't look down all the places beyond. And this throne that I sit on, it's too low down. I ought to be higher," he said, with a frown. "If I could sit high, how much greater I'd be. What a king, I'd be ruler of all I could see." So Yertle the Turtle King lifted his hand, and Yertle the Turtle King gave a command. He ordered 9 turtles to swim to his throne, and using those turtles he built a new throne. He made each turtle stand on another one's back, and he piled them all up in a 9 turtle stack. And then Yertle climbed up and sat down on the pile. What a wonderful view! He could see almost a mile. All mine," Yertle cried. "All the things I now rule. I'm king of a cow, I'm king of a mule, I'm king of a house, and what's more beyond that, I'm king of a blueberry bush and a cat. I'm Yertle the Turtle, marvellous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see." And all through that morning he sat up there high, saying over and over, "What a great king am I," until long about noon, and he heard a faint sigh. "What's that?" snapped the king, and he looked down the stack, and he saw at the bottom a turtle named Mac. Just part of his throne, this plain little turtle looked up and he said, "I beg your pardon, King Yertle. I've pains in me back, and me shoulders and me knees. How long must we stand here for, your majesty, please?" "Silence!" the king of the turtles barked back. "I'm king, and you're only a plain turtle named Mac. You stay in your place while I sit here and rule. I'm king of a cow, I'm king of a mule, I'm king of a house and a bush and a cat. And that isn't all, I'll do better than that. And my throne shall be higher," his royal voice thundered. "So pile up more turtles, I want about 200. Turtles, more turtles," he bellowed and brayed, and the turtles way down in the pond were afraid. They trembled, they shook, but they came, they obeyed. From all over the pond they came swimming by dozens, whole family of turtles with uncles and cousins, and all of them stepped on the head of poor Mac. One after another they climbed up the stack. Then Yertle the turtle was perched so high he could see 40 miles from his throne in the sky. "Hurrah!" shouted Yertle. "I'm king of the trees, I'm king of the birds, king of the bees, king of the butterflies, king of the air. Oh me, what a throne, what a wonderful chair. I'm Yertle the Turtle, oh marvellous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see." Then again, from below in the great heavy stack, came a groan from that plain little turtle named Mac. "Your Majesty, please, I don't like to complain, but down here below we're feeling great pain. I know up on top you're seeing great sights, but down at the bottom we too should have rights. We turtles can't stand it, our shells they'll crack. Besides we need food, we're starving," groaned Mac. "You hush up your mouth," howled the mighty King Yertle. "You've no right to talk to the world's highest turtle. I rule from the clouds, over land, over sea, and there's nothing, no nothing, that's higher than me." But while he was shouting, he saw with surprise that the moon of the evening was starting to rise, up over his head in the darkening skies. "What's that?" snorted Yertle. "Say, what is that thing that dares to be higher than Yertle the king? I shan't allow it, I'll go higher still, I'll build me throne, I can, I will. I'll call some more turtles, I'll stuck 'em to heaven, I'll need about 5,607. But as Yertle the Turtle King lifted his hand and he started to order and gave the command, that plain little turtle below in the stack, that plain little turtle whose name was just Mac, decided he'd taken enough, and he had. And that plain little lad got a little bit mad, and that plain little Mac did a plain little thing. He burped. And his burp shook the throne of the king. And Yertle the Turtle, the king of the trees, the king of the air, the birds and the bees, the king of a house, a cow and a mule. Well, that was the end of the Turtle King's rule. For Yertle, the king of Salamasond, fell off his high throne and went in the pond. And today, the great Yertle, that marvellous he, is king of the mud, because that's all he can see. And in turtles, of course, all the turtles are free, as turtles, and maybe all creatures should be. Gertrude McFuzz. There once was a girl bird named Gertrude McFuzz, and she had the smallest plain towel there ever there was. One droopy droop feather, that's all she had, and oh, one feather made Gertrude so sad. For there was one another bird she knew, a fancy young birdie named Lolily Loo, and instead of one feather behind, she had two. Poor Gertrude, whenever she happened to spy Miss Lolily Loo flying by in the sky, she got very jealous, she frowned, she pouted, and then one day she got awfully mad and she shouted,
"This just isn't fair. I have one and she has two. I must have a towel like Lolily Loo."
So she flew to her uncle, a doctor named Dake, whose office was high in the tree by the lake.
And she cried, "Uncle Doctor, oh please, do you know of some kind of pill that will make my towel grow?"
Said the doctor. "Such talk, how absurd. Your towel is just right for your kind of bird." Then Gertrude had tantrums, she raised such a din, that finally her uncle, the doctor, gave in. And he told her just where she could find such a pill on a pillberry vine on the top of the hill.
"Oh, thank you,"
chirped Gertrude McFuzz, and she flew right straight to the hill where the pillberry grew. Yes, there was the vine, and soon she saw it. She plucked off a berry and she started to gnaw it. It tasted just awful, almost made her sick, but she wanted that towel, so she swallowed it quick. Then she felt something happen. She felt a small twitch, as if she'd been tapped down behind by a switch. And Gertrude looked down and she cheered. It was true, two feathers exactly like Lolily Loo. And then she got an idea.
"Now I know what I'll do. I'll grow a towel better than Lolily Loo. These pills that grow feathers are working just fine."
So she nibbled another one off the vine. She felt a new twitch, and then Gertrude yelled,
"Whee! Miss Lola only has two. I have three.
When Lolily Loo sees my beautiful stuff, she'll fall right down flat on her face, sure enough.
I'll show her who's pretty, I certainly will. Why, I'll make my towel even prettier still."
She snatched at those berries that grew on the vine. She gobbled down 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And she didn't stop eating, young Gertrude McFuzz, till she'd eaten 3 dozen. That's all that there was. Then the feathers popped out with a zang and a zing. They blossomed like flowers that bloom in the spring, all fit for a queen. What a sight to behold. They sparkled like diamonds and gumdrops and gold. Like silk, like spaghetti, like satin, like lace. They burst out like rockets all over the place. They waved in the air, they swished in the breeze, and some of them were long as branches of trees. And still they kept growing. They popped until long about sundown, when finally they stopped.
"Now,"
giggled Gertrude,
"the next thing I'll do is to fly straight home and show Lolily Loo. What Lola sees these, her face will turn red. She'll let out a scream and probably drop down dead."
Then she spread out her wings to take off from the ground, but of all those feathers she weighed 90 pound. She yanked and she pulled and she let out a squawk, but that bird couldn't fly, couldn't run, couldn't walk. And all through the night she was stuck on the hill, that Gertrude McFuzz might be stuck up there still. If her good uncle Dake hadn't heard the girl yelp, he rushed to her rescue and brought along help. To lift Gertrude up almost broke all their beaks, and to fly her back home it took almost 2 weeks. And then it took almost another week more to pull out those feathers. My Gertrude was sore. And finally, when all the pulling was done, Gertrude behind her again just had one. That one little feather she had as a starter, but now that's enough, 'cause now she's smarter. I think we've got time for one more. The Big Brag. The rabbit felt mighty important that day on top of the hill in the sun where he lay. He felt so important up there on the hill that he started in bragging as animals will, and he boasted out loud as he threw out his chest. All of the beasts in the world, I'm the best. On land, on sea, even up in the sky, no animal lives who is better than I.
What's that?
Growled a voice that was terribly gruff.
Now, why do you say such ridiculous stuff?
The rabbit looked down and he saw a big bear.
I'm the best of the beasts,
said the bear.
So there.
You're not, snapped the rabbit. I'm better than you.
Pooh,
the bear snorted.
Again, I say pooh. You talk mighty big, Mr. Rabbit, that's true. But how can you prove it? Just what can you do?
Thought the rabbit. Now what can I do? He thought and he finally said, Mr. Bear, do you see those 2 ears on my head? My ears are so keen, so sharp, so fine. No ears in the world can hear further than mine.
Humph,
the bear grunted. He looked at each ear.
You say they're good, said the bear with a sneer, but how do I know just how far we could hear?
I'll prove, said the rabbit. My ears are the best. You sit there and watch me. I'll prove it by test. And then he stiffened his ears till they both stood up high, and they pointed straight up to the blue of the sky. And he stretched his ears open as wide as he could. Shh, I'm listening, he said as he stood. He listened so hard that he started to sweat, and the fur on his ears and forehead got wet. For 7 long minutes he stood. Then he stirred, and he said to the bear, Do you know what I just heard? Do you see that far mountain? It's 90 miles off. There's a fly on that mountain. I just heard him cough. Now the cough of a fly, sir, is quite hard to hear when it's 90 miles off, but I heard it quite clear. So you see, bragged the rabbit, it's perfectly true that my ears are the best. My ears are the best, so I'm better than you. The bear for a moment just skulked, and he sat, for he knew that his ears couldn't hear things like that.
This rabbit, he thought, made a fool out of me. Now I've got to prove that I'm better than he.
So he said to the rabbit,
You hear pretty well. You can hear 90 miles, but how far can you smell? I'm the greatest of smellers, he bragged. See my nose? This nose on my face is the finest that grows. My nose can smell anything, both far and near. With my nose, I can smell twice as far as you can hear.
You can't, snapped the rabbit.
I can,
growled the bear, and he stuck his big nose way up in the air. He wiggled his nose, and he sniffed, and he snuffed, and he waggled that nose, and it whiffed, and it waffed. For more than 10 minutes he snaffed and he snuffed. Then he said to the rabbit,
I've smelled far enough.
All right, said the rabbit. Come on now then. Exactly how far did the smell that you smell?
Oh, I'm smelling a very far smell, said the bear. Away past that fly on the mountain out there. I'm smelling past many great mountains beyond, 600 miles more, to the edge of a pond. And way out there by the pond you can't see is a very small farm. On the farm is a tree. On the tree is a branch, on the branch is a nest. A very small nest with 2 tiny eggs. 2 hummingbird eggs, only half an inch long. But my nose, said the bear, is so wonderfully strong. My nose is so good that I smelled without fail that the egg on the left is a little bit stale. And that is a thing that no rabbit can do. So you'll see, the bear boasted, I'm better than you. My smell is so keen that it just can't be beat.
What's that? Called a voice from way down by their feet. The bear and the rabbit looked down at the sound, and they saw an old worm crawling along on the ground. "Now, boys," said the worm, "you've been bragging a lot. You both think you're great, but I think you are not. You're not half as good as a fellow like me. You hear and you smell, but how far can you see? Now I'm here to prove to you big boasting guys that your nose and your ears aren't as good as my eyes." And the little worm cocked his head to one side, and he opened his eye, opened them wide, and they looked far away with a strange sort of stare, as if they were burning two holes in the air. The eyes of the worm almost popped from his head, as he stared half an hour, till his eyelids got red. "That's enough."
"That's enough," growled the bear.
"That's enough," said the worm.
"Tell the rabbit and me, how far did you look, and just what did you see?"
"Well, boys," the worm answered, "that look that I took was a look that looked farther than you'll ever look. I looked across the ocean way out to Japan, for I can see farther than anyone can. There's one on earth that has eyesight that's finer. No, there's no one on earth that has eyesight that's finer. I looked past Japan and I looked past China. I looked across Egypt, then took a quick glance across the two countries of Holland and France. Then I looked across England and also Brazil, but I didn't stop there. I looked much further still. And I kept right on looking and looking until I'd looked round the world and back on this hill. And I saw on this hill, since my eyesight's so keen, the two biggest fools that I've ever seen. And the fools that I saw were none other than you, who seem to have nothing else better to do than sit here and argue who's better than who." And then the little old worm gave his head a small jerk, and he dived into his hole, and he went back to work. The end. See ya.